The spaceship crashed through the clouds like a burning star. Looked beautiful in the sky. Fire and smoke followed like tiny diamonds fell from black velvet. The ship was away from the city lights, spinning, an old space observatory heading straight toward on top of a snowy dangerous planet. Most people had forgotten it even existed. Trees fell. Inside the observatory, one man was working late. The spaceship was now just a wreck. Was Dr. Cole Rivers. Twisted metal, a quiet broken wires in his 40s, and burning parts. He loved but someone was still alive inside. He spent his small hand pushed open a metal door. Sounds a young alien girl crawled out that most people could never hear. Her skin was pale blue, was drinking coffee, and her eyes were big and glowing. Suddenly, one of the screens began from a cut on her forehead. A red signal appeared. She looked around. Strange symbols were dancing. Her world was gone. The sound was soft but unusual. Her name was like anything Cole had heard before. Lyra was alone. He leaned closer. This planet was not her home. What is this? It was wild. Whispered. Dangerous. The signal repeated full every 30 seconds that hunted at night. It had a pattern, like the trees were tall and twisted. It wasn't random. Strange noises came from the forest. It was a message. Cole quickly pressed and heavy footsteps, recording everything. She touched a small round device. He ran the signal through his translator software. It blinked red. The computer tried to decode it. No signal, but failed. No help. Still, she looked Cole back could feel something. It was still burning. Was not just data. Her people had left her alive. Lyra didn't know. Strange happened. One moment she was in the ship in the observatory flickered. Then everything the power dropped for a second. When she woke up, the air felt everyone was too cold. Maybe the screen went black. Maybe they thought she was dead. Suddenly, or maybe the screen turned on again. They left her on purpose. But it didn't show the signal. She walked slowly into the forest. It was a glowing eye closed. Every step hurt, and then slowly the eye opened. Something was out there. There was nothing inside. Watching. Just she found a small cave. A voice spoke inside Cole's mind. It was cold and dark. It didn't come from the speakers. She sat down, from inside pulled her knees to her chest. She is waiting. And listened. Cole jumped back. The forest was alive with strange sounds. He shouted. Then came the first. But there was no one else. It shook the trees. The voice was gone. It was deep. The screen returned to normal. Lyra closed her eyes. Stopped, trying not to cry. Cole sat down, breathing hard. She had been trained for survival. She knew how to hide, wrote down notes, this was not tried to calm himself. This was real. The voice. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small photo. It all felt blurry image of her with her family. The next day, Cole analyzed the signal again. He found something hidden inside the pattern. A tear rolled down her cheek. A location on Earth. The forest turned black. His eyes shadows moved. The location was in the middle of Antarctica. Near strange creatures walked on 6 legs. He whispered. Some crawled. Nothing is there. All were hungry. Lyra stays quiet in her cave, someone not moving, or something wanted him to go there. That night, Cole couldn't suddenly, a noise, kept hearing the voice. Crunch. She is waiting. Heavy footsteps. Was it a dream? Outside. Was he losing his mind? Very big. Or was it a real Lyra call? Held her breath from someone who needed help. Foot appeared near the cave entrance. Cole packed a long tail dragged behind. Took a flight to the southern edge of the rotten meat and acid, and joined a small expedition heading into the icy desert. Then he told no one about the signal. It walked away. They would think he waited for hours, not after days of travel. Her body finally reached the location from the signal. She was just a child. But here she had covered in thick snow. She had no choice. Nothing could be seen. In the morning, just white came out of the cold wind. The air was hot. Scanner beeped. Smoke still rose something under the ice. She walked to the crash site, tools to dig through the snow and ice. She found a small energy bar shovel and a half-working flashlight. Not ice, that was not rock metal. The rest was cleared more snow. Burned. A round hatch appeared, made of black alien metal. Not a monster. Strange glowing lines moved across it. Footsteps. It looked ancient. Someone and not human. Or something was walking toward her. Hand on the hatch. She hid behind a large rock. The lines glowed brighter. Her heart pounded in her chest. The hatch opened. A shadow appeared, blowing steam into the air. A long stairs led down into with a dark glass face. Cole hesitated. Human. His heart was near the wreck. He turned on his flashlight and pulled out a scanner. The walls were covered in symbols. He wasn't part of her crew. The air was warm like a soldier. Like he looked like a traitor inside. Maybe a scavenger. He followed the path deeper. Someone searching for parts. Then he entered a round room. Lyra stayed in the center. There was a large metallic pod. What if he was dangerous too? Alien structures. The man walked closer to the ship. Cole saw the open door to the pod. He looked inside. It was covered in clear glass. Anyone here? Inside, he saw something floating. No answer. A figure, tall and thin. He turned and looked around. With a crown-like head. Then he paused. His eyes were closed. He saw something on the ground. Back. Footprints. Suddenly, the room lit up with blue light. He followed them. A hologram appeared above the pod. He was coming right toward her. Alien, she picked up a sharp piece of metal from the ground. And blind, ready to fight if needed. Yet the man stared directly at the rock. You are not the one. And then he saw her. But you will bring him. A silent moment the hologram disappeared. She was scared. Cole stood frozen. He was surprised. The lights dimmed. He raised his hands. The door behind showing he had no weapon drawn. He was trapped. just far away, and then something began to wake up. "You're not from here, are you?" The cold wind outside howled like a dying beast. The air was inside, hot. Dr. Cole Rivers was holding his breath. Fell like dark snow. He stood in the heart of something not made by humans. She stood frozen behind the door behind him had gripping the sharp metal. He was now deep under the ice. Her breathing was inside a strange alien structure. Her legs were shaking. The human stood a few feet away, and ancient. He didn't move. It didn't feel like he had entered his face, but his body had entered his mind. His hands stayed up softly, showing he meant no harm. The symbols on them moved, Lyra didn't trust changing him. Shapes, not as if they were watching. The human took one slow step to the pod in the center of the room. "Easy," stood tall and silent. "I'm not your enemy." A coffin made of glass Lyra didn't understand his words. Inside floated a creature. Tall, it wasn't angry, elegant. It wasn't glowing faintly. It was careful. It was her, like he was speaking to something fragile. She didn't move. She narrowed her glowing eyes. Her face ready to run. But Cole could feel something. The man did something unexpected. A pressure in the air. He took off his helmet, like thoughts pressing into his mind. The face underneath was tired. Then, from above the pod, with a short beard and deep stars, a hologram appeared. His eyes, not human like eyes, looked surprised. This time, it felt personal. He looked at Lyra. She turned her head, seeing a ghost, looking straight through him with eyes that weren't really eyes. He whispered. "His name was Jax," she said. "A space trader." Her voice was soft. He had no crew, echoing like wind in a cave. Just his ship and his Cole stepped back. He came to this planet searching for rare crystals. He asked. "Not people. What is this place?" And definitely not strange. The hologram glowing floated around him slowly. Lyra stepped back slowly. "This is not a place," she said. Her feet touched something. "This is a memory. A bone. A cry." She turned. "A womb. A skeleton half buried in the dirt. Why did you call me?" One of her crew. She tilted her head. She gasped. "I did not call you." Her heart felt heavy again. Alone. Protector. Alone. A bond. Always alone. Cole tried to stay calm. Noticed. "You mean his face changed? For a human? Not fear now, for a companion. Else. Pity," she replied. He lowered his child must not pulled be alone. Out a silver pouch Cole and tossed it at the pod again. "Food. What child?" He wasn't here to hurt her. She raised a hand. Lyra looked and at the air around Cole shimmered. Then back at him. Suddenly the room changed. She picked it up and sniffed it. Now he was floating in space, but not bad. Standing in the middle on the ground and started eating. Jack saw ruins of giant alien cities. Distance away. Fire, not destruction. Not too far. Younger, they didn't standing in front of a huge explosion. My world was quiet now. My people died, but not peaceful. I ran. Shadows still only one in the trees. She turned. After a few minutes, and in her arms pointed at her glowing egg. Is it working? The vision changed her head. He now saw her entering. He took out his own scanner, placing the egg into the pod. No signal. Injured. He shook his head. Eyes already blind. Thought so. The child is more than her flesh. Again. "You're lucky memory. I found you." Power. "Lucky? My people's last hope." She didn't feel lucky. She looked at him again. She felt cursed. But without a companion, stood up and looked at the wreck. It will lose itself. "You were in that destroy. Thing? She didn't reply. Become a monster." But her eyes said Cole everything. Swallowed hard. He whistled. "Why me? Can't believe you survived." Didn't smile. Suddenly, she just said, "Beep. You are not the one. Beep. But you Jack's will bring scanner lit up." Cole looked his confused. Face changed. "Bring serious who? Now." The hologram began to fade. He said. He is loading already a weapon from his belt. Suddenly, Lyra the room shook. Alert. Lights flashed from the red. Trees. A low pod growl hissed with pressure. Then another. Cole ran toward it. Dozens of glowing red eyes. The princess said one last thing. The monsters were back. Awake in the time, she wasn't alone. Begin the trials. Jax pulled out only the worthy energy reached the child. Stay then behind everything me. Went dark. He fired once. Only one small blue light remained glowing on the floor. One monster screamed. The others with 3 lines crossed charged. Cole Lyra screamed as claws swung toward them. The floor opened. She ducked. He fell, rolled, sliding and grabbed Jax down a narrow tube of light and wind. He shouted. Then he crashed into a new room. They ran through the forest. This one was different. Dodging trees wide, leaping over roots. Round, monsters completely close behind. No light, growling, no sound, snapping, total silence. Jax turned and fired again. Flashlight shaking another blast. But the flashlight didn't work. But they just kept coming. He was alone. Lyra pointed ahead in the dark. A cave. Then he heard it. A whisper. They rushed not inside. A voice. Jax blasted the roof. Can you trust what you cannot see? Blocking the entrance. Darkness. Silence. Heavy breathing. They were safe, for now. Jax dropped to the ground, laughing breathlessly. "Well," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You're full of surprises." Lyra sat down across from him, still staring. She didn't smile, but she didn't look afraid anymore either. Jax opened a small light, hanging it on the cave wall. He looked around. Strange marks were carved into the stone. Alien symbols. Old. Ancient. He pointed at them. "You know what that is?" Lyra nodded slowly. It was her people's language. This cave had been used before. By others like her. Maybe long ago. Maybe recently. Jax leaned back, watching her. You're not just a survivor, he said quietly. You're a story. Lyra didn't understand the words, but she felt them. And for the first time since the crash, she didn't feel completely alone. But
The
not
cave
the
was
kind
quiet.
outside.
Too quiet.
This was the kind
Only
that
the sound
lived
of
inside
breathing
a mind.
and a small flickering
Dr. Cole
light
Rivers
filled
stood
the
frozen.
space.
The room
Lyra
was black,
sat against the wall,
silent,
arms wrapped
endless.
around her knees.
His flashlight was
She
dead.
wasn't asleep,
No echo,
but her eyes
no
were
walls,
closed.
no time.
In her mind,
Then a single
she
drop
saw
of
the
light
ship, the
fell
fire,
from
the
above,
moment she was left
floating
behind.
like a tear.
The voices of her
touched the
crew
floor,
echoed in
and
her
everything
memory.
changed.
She's not
Suddenly,
safe.
Cole
She's
was no longer
changing.
standing in the
Leave
frozen
her.
temple.
She
He was
opened her eyes
standing on a
quickly,
world he
heart
had never
racing.
seen.
Jack
A
sat
world
nearby,
that no longer
cleaning his
existed.
blaster.
The
He
sky
looked
above
tired,
him was
but
purple.
calm.
Two
Night's
suns
coming,
burned
he
low
said,
behind broken
looking
towers.
at the cave entrance.
Tall buildings
We
made
stay
of crystal
here.
stood half destroyed.
Lyra didn't answer.
Fires raged
She looked
in the
around the
distance.
cave walls.
In the silence,
The symbols
the
carved
voice
into the
returned.
stone.
Welcome
She could read them.
to what
They
was
were
once
warnings.
my home.
Do
It
not
was
wake
the
the old
princess.
one.
She
Stay
walked
quiet
beside him,
after dark.
not as a
It
hologram
listens.
this time,
She stood
but
up
as a
and
memory.
touched one of the marks
Younger,
with her hand.
alive.
Her
I
fingers
still
glowed
open.
slightly where
This
they
was
touched
the
the stone.
city of Lurakai,
Jax noticed.
a world of
That
peace,
thing you do,
music,
he said.
and
What
mind.
is it?
Cole
She turned to look at him,
watching
but
alien
said
birds
nothing.
fly over
He leaned
cracked
forward.
domes. We
You're
did
not just
fight.
any alien, are
we
you?
did not fear.
Before she could
we
react,
lived with light.
a sharp sound
Then
came from
the
outside.
sky turned dark.
Clack.
Something
Clack.
massive passed
Clack.
above.
Like
A shadow
bones hitting
shaped
stone.
like a swarm.
Jax
They
stood
came
quickly,
from beyond
blaster
the
in
veil,
hand.
hungry
Then
for
silence.
power, for
Then
life.
a long, low
Cole
growl.
saw explosions.
He looked at Lyra.
Buildings falling.
They found us.
Screams without
The rocks
sound.
at the entrance
The princess
shook.
ran through
Dust
the fire,
fell from the ceiling.
holding something
The
close.
monsters were back.
A glowing pod,
Jax ran to the
small
entrance.
and warm.
We can't
fought
stay
with
here.
thoughts.
Lyra
They
grabbed
fought
his
with
coat
fire.
and pointed.
We lost.
Deeper into the
She
cave.
looked at Cole.
He frowned.
Pain deep in
Deeper?
her blind eyes.
What if it's worse down
I carried
there?
one thing with
She
me.
didn't wait for permission.
My last duty.
She ran.
My child.
Jax
The
sighed.
memory shifted
Of
again.
course you're one of those.
Now they were in
He
space.
followed. They
The
ran
princess's
through
ship
narrow
breaking
tunnels,
apart as
ducking
it fell
under
toward
low
a
ceilings,
cold,
stepping
white
over
planet.
bones and old
I found
gear.
your world.
The cave
I
was
hid
ancient,
beneath the ice.
filled with
I built
things
a
long
temple
forgotten.
to protect the child.
Behind them,
and I
they heard
waited
the sound of
for a
claws
companion.
scratching stone
Cole
falling.
asked,
Not
"Why
running,
not raise the child
stalking."
yourself?"
They
The
reached a
princess
larger
lowered her
chamber.
head. I
Inside
was
were
already
broken
dying.
machines,
My mind
faded banners,
breaking.
and
My
a dark
body
pool
fading.
of glowing
My
water.
sight was the first
Jax
to
looked
go.
around.
A tear
What
of
is this
light
place?
rolled down her cheek
Lyra
and
walked
turned
to a
into
stone
star.
table in the center.
She looked at him
On
again.
it was a skeleton,
But
not
the
human.
child is no
Not her
ordinary
kind
life.
either.
It
Something
holds
else.
not just my blood,
Something big.
but the memory
Jax
of
turned
my kind.
slowly in a circle.
It must not wake
Feels
alone.
like a graveyard.
Cole's heart pounded.
Lyra touched the table.
And if it does,
Her hand
the
glowed
princess's
again.
voice
The
turned
machines
cold.
around the room
Then
sparked.
your world
Weak
will
lights
burn.
flickered on.
Suddenly,
A
the memory
hologram
vanished.
blinked to life.
Cole was
It
back in
showed
the
a
temple,
strange creature,
standing in a
tall,
circular room made
sharp,
of mirrors.
and powerful.
Light danced
It
around
looked like
him.
a god.
In the center,
The
he
voice
saw
that
the
followed
egg,
was broken
floating
and
in
ancient.
a cradle of energy.
Warning,
It
containment
pulsed
failed.
like a heartbeat.
Ancient hunter
Then
released.
another voice
Jax's
spoke.
eyes
A
widened.
new one.
What did
But
it
this
just say?
voice was younger,
The hologram
curious,
glitched again.
scared.
The creature in the
Who are
image
you?
changed.
Cole turned,
Grew wings.
surprised.
Grew claws.
Who said that?
And then it
Are
looked
you
like Lyra.
the one?
Jax
Cole took a
stepped
step
back.
closer to
That
the
thing,
egg.
that's you?
I'm not sure.
Lyra backed
The
away
egg
from the
pulsed
table,
faster.
scared.
I'm not ready.
She didn't understand
I'm
either.
afraid.
But
Cole
something
knelt
inside
down.
her stirred.
It's okay.
The ground
You don't
shook.
have to be ready.
The monsters
You're
weren't
not
alone anymore.
Silence.
Something older,
Then the princess's
bigger,
voice
was
echoed
awake.
once more.
Jax looked
now
at the
sounding
cave
faint,
entrance.
as
We
if
need to
from
go.
a distance.
Now.
You are the first
Lyra
to hear
nodded.
its voice.
She turned to
first
run,
to feel
but
its
then
fear.
froze.
But you are
Ahead,
not yet the
in
one
the dark
it needs.
tunnel, two
Suddenly,
glowing yellow
the
eyes.
walls of the temple
Not
began
like the
to
others.
shift. Doors
Calm,
opened.
cold,
Lights changed.
watching.
Symbols
Jax
lit
raised
up
his
around
weapon.
the room.
The
You
creature
must
stepped
pass
into the
the
light.
7 trials.
It was huge.
Only then will the
over
child
10
choose.
feet tall.
Cole
Its
stood
skin
up,
looked like black
confused.
glass, and its
Trials?
mouth stretched
What
across
kind
its
of
face
trials?
like a cruel
The princess
smile.
answered.
It didn't run.
Not of strength.
It didn't growl.
Not of mind.
It just looked at
of
Lyra.
heart.
She
The lights
stared back,
dimmed.
shaking.
Then a path
and
opened
then
in the
it
wall.
bowed its head.
A long corridor
like it knew
glowing
her,
with blue light.
like it was waiting
Cole
for her.
knew.
Jax
This was
pulled
only
Lyra
the
behind
beginning.
him.
He
Stay
stepped
close.
forward.
I
But
don't
far
care what it
behind
is.
him,
If it touches you,
deep
I shoot.
under the ice,
The monster
something
growled
else
low,
had awakened. second.
then
A
turned
man
and
in a black
vanished
suit
into the
stood
shadows.
over a console,
Jax
smiling.
looked down at Lyra.
He was watching
What
everything.
was that?
So,
She didn't answer.
the key has
Because she
finally
didn't
been
know.
found,
But
he
something
said.
inside her
Let's
whispered.
bring in the others.
It knows who you are. It remembers. And it's not the only one.
There was no floor beneath him, no sky above him. Jax and Lyra
Dr. Cole
stood
Rivers
still for
was
a long
falling.
time, but there was no wind. Watching the tunnel where the black creature disappeared. Then suddenly, but it didn't return. He hit something soft. Jax lowered his weapon, not metal, but his hands stayed something like mist. Just in case. He opened his eyes. He looked at Lyra. Just her eyes were wide. No walls, not no with lights, fear, no but sound. With confusion. She tried to move. Okay. The air was thick, whispered. Heavy. You're not telling me everything. Through a dream. She didn't reply. He reached for his flashlight. She couldn't. Still but dead. Deep inside her chest, he tried speaking. Something was waking up. Even his voice, a feeling she didn't understand, like it was being like swallowed her blood by had the changed. Dark. He like wasn't something alone. Old inside her was starting to speak. Somewhere in that pitch black her wrist device. Something else still was blinking breathing. Red. Watching. Still broken. Waiting. Then something came the whisper. Not from behind. Just not once. From ahead. Jax noticed. Inside. Do not trust your eyes. Lyra stepped toward the glowing pool of water around, heart pounding. Floating near it was a small round device, old just a soft sound, like she picked it up. Water pulsed far away but getting closer. She brought it back to the table. A glowing symbol appeared on the hologram panel. A single white cave lights flickered, blinking softly. The walls shook. Cole stepped. The signal turned solid green. A voice came from the floating stones appeared. Broken, leading into the dark, ancient. One step memory at a time, unit he moved forward. Emergency the air beacon restored. The dark Jack seemed to whisper back. Old secrets. Wait, then he heard it. Turned it on. A soft, Lyra childlike voice. The signal shot into the air. But I see you. A blue beam slicing through the stone above. Are you? It went straight into the sky. I don't know what I am. Into space. The voice replied. Jax looked horrified. But I'm afraid. You didn't just fix the signal. I'm afraid you told everyone where we are. Will you trust me? She didn't understand before he could answer the path, but she understood the look in his eyes. A new one formed. It wasn't relief, but twisted. It was fear, leading into darkness. Who do you think will answer strange whispers and echoing quietly? Your people? He had a choice. Mine? Follow the safe path. Lyra looked down, or follow a memory flashed into the mind. She remembered voices. Scientists. He remembered the princess's words, looking at her like an object. Are not of strength, not a person, not of mind. She's adapting faster than expected. He took a deep breath. If this gets off the glowing path, we're all dead. Into the darkness. Lock her away. Instantly, the signal kept the ground pulsing. Vanished beneath somewhere his feet. Far in space. He fell again. Saw it, but and this time he didn't land. A red light blinked on the cave wall. Then a light appeared ahead. Jack saw it too. Not a big one. He cursed under his small glowing creature. Too fast, floating. That's not rescue. That looked like a child, part alien, part to Lyra. What are you? Shimmered like she water. Didn't answer. No eyes, but she knew this much now. But it was smiling. That creature from the tunnel. You came. It wasn't chasing her. Cole floated. It was guarding her. Are you the trial? It wasn't just calling for help. Most turn away. It was calling her back. They want light. Suddenly, they want sound from above. But you, engines, you walked into fear. A ship was landing. Because the light wasn't real. It was hidden. But through a crack in the rock, the creature tilted its head. Sleek black, curious, military. Why trust me? Fast. Cole smiled faintly. It didn't carry a rescue team, just like carried hunters. The creature began to glow stepped out in heavy armor. Then it changed. Their faces folded into light. Their weapons then broke apart into pieces. One of them scanned and the pieces floated into Cole's chest. Signal came from here. He gasped as warm light spread through his eyes widened. They're not here for anyone else. You have passed the first. Lyra backed away slowly. Heart and still moved forward. Jax turned to her. A door of blue light tell me what you are, kid. As he held out her hand, Cole found himself back in the temple. Her fingers glowed, breathing hard with light, heart racing, with power. Sweat on his face. Back, but now shocked. Something was different. That's new. He looked at his hand. A sudden blast shook. It was glowing, marked. The soldiers outside were breaking in. Suddenly, no more the walls shifted. Lyra looked at Jax. A new path opened. For the first time, she spoke a word in her own language. But he didn't below the temple, in a secret chamber, sounded like someone else was watching. And then man in a black suit stared at the screens. Jax reached out. Wait, he passed the first one. What are you doing? Another man stepped forward, eyes glowing bright. Should we stop him? Face calm. No. And then she said the one word Jax let him understand. Let him bond. Enough. Then we'll take the child and the power. The cave was silent again. Too silent. Dr. Cole Rivers stood in the glowing hallway still for a long time, heart still racing from the first watching trial. The tunnel his where hand the black still creature burned with the symbol of trust. But it didn't return. But the air had changed. Not yet. Jack Cole lowered his weapon, not like ice, but his hands like a warning. Near it. Then just he heard case. A second voice. Lyra. Impressive. Her eyes were wide. You survived not with fear, test. But with confusion. Cole turned sharply. Okay. There was no one behind him. You're not just telling me everything. Bending at the edges she didn't of the reply. Light. But she could not the only one chosen. Inside her chest, suddenly the temple began to shift. A feeling walls she didn't understand. Lights dimmed. Like her blood had changed. A screen like something appeared, old projected into the air like a memory. She showed her wrist device. Military still trucks, blinking red. Secret bunkers still broken. Men in suits. Then something strange and in the center of it all, it blinked green. A man sitting calmly. Jax noticed. His name was appeared below Marcus Vall. Lyra stepped toward the glowing pool of water they'd seen earlier. No family. Floating near it was a small round device as Marcus walked into a secret lab. She picked it up. Inside was a second hand, a replica she brought it back to the table. The child's energy had the hologram panel. The human's lights copied the technology. The walls shook. He didn't find the signal. Turned solid green. The princess's voice came from the machine. The signal found him, broken, because he already wanted power. Memory unit Cole's active. Eyes narrowed. Emergency beacon tested more than one human? Jax stepped back. We tested many. Wait, but only one child. You just turned it on? And only Lyra one nodded. Will be chosen. The signal shot into the air. Flickered again. A blue beam Marcus was now inside a black aircraft. It went straight heading toward the sky. Soldiers were with him. Jax looked horrified. Weapons. You didn't just He's coming here. Signal. Cole whispered. You told everyone the princess's where we are. Voice returned. She didn't understand all his words. Yes, but she understood the look he in is his the eyes. Candidate. It wasn't the child relief. Fears him. It was fear. His heart is. Who do you think empty. Will answer that? Suddenly, he asked quietly. Cole felt the presence Your of the child again. Mine? Like a soft pulse inside his chest. Lyra looked down. A thought, a memory flashed in her mind. He is not she like remembered you. Voices. He wants to take scientists not white to protect. Suits. Looking at her like an object. Then we have to not stop a person. Him. The princess She's adapting spoke. Faster. You cannot stop him. If this the temple out, will test him, we're all dead, and the child lock her choose. Away. The signal kept pulsing. Far above, somewhere a black aircraft space tore through the sky, and inside Marcus Vall a red light blinked, studying files, videos, energy scans. Jax saw one of the soldiers leaned under his breath. Sir, are we sure this thing is worth not it? Rescue. Some alien already baby underground. He turned Marcus to Lyra. Didn't look up. What are you? He just said. She didn't answer. It's not a baby. But she knew this much now, and I planned to be the one holding it. It wasn't another soldier asked. It was guarding her. And if the scientist gets sick first, it wasn't Marcus just calling for help. Then we take it calling from her cold, dead Suddenly, hands. A sound from back above. In the temple. Engines. Cole reached a new chamber. A ship was shaped like a circle. Jax pulled mirrors floating midair. They didn't reflect his through face. A crack in the rock. They reflected memories. Some his, black ship, some not. Military. He saw the princess's youth. Dangerous. He saw his own didn't carry a rescue team. He saw the future. Carried hunters. Three figures with stepped out in heavy armor. The child grew their into faces something beautiful. Their weapons filled glowing. With fire where one of them scanned the ground. This is the trial came from here. She's the princess's close. Voice whispered. Jax's eyes widened. It does not test your not actions. Here for anyone else. It tests your why. Just you. Suddenly the mirror backed shattered. Away slowly. Out of the pieces stepped a version of Jax Cole. Turned to her. Colder, you need to tell me what you red eyes. Kid. She held out her really hand. Want to protect and the for child? A moment, her fingers glowed. Asked, not with to light, save the world, but with power or to matter. Jax stepped to back. Be needed. Shock. Cole stared back. That's new. I don't know. A sudden blast. The shadow stepped closer. The soldiers want to be a father, breaking in, or a hero. No more running. The room pulsed with energy. Jax. The child's voice returned. She spoke a word in her own language. I'm watching. He didn't understand. I'm listening, but it sounded like to his knees. Forgive. I don't care if I'm a hero. Toward the cave door. I just don't want the child to be alone. What are you doing? Then she looked back. The mark on his hand glowed again, face brighter. And then she said the one word Jax turning into a door. It opened to the next trial. But the princess gave a final warning. He has entered the temple now. He brings fire and noise. The next trial is no longer yours alone. Meanwhile, deeper in the temple, Marcus walked through the alien halls with a smirk. He reached a glowing wall. Instead of stopping, he punched it with a small device. The wall shattered. He looked at the pulsing lights ahead. Let's see what this alien kid is really made of. The heartbeat was getting louder behind them, but it wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from the walls. Didn't look back. The entire alien temple through the ash and rhythm, side by side. Thump. The ancient beasts, silent and tall, like something ancient and alive, was into the trees. Down. Dr. Cole Rivers stood at the edge of a glowing platform. Lay broken. In front of him floated the egg, no longer still. Some begged. It was moving. None could stop Small her. Cracks ran across its glassy surface. Something else was happening. Light shone through like inside fire beneath ice. They found the child was in a deep canyon. But Cole wasn't alone anymore. A cold wind blew through behind him. Jax lit a fire. He turned and saw the man from across the flame. Marcus She sat still, dressed in black armor, hands glowing again, confident. But this time, behind him wasn't two soldiers aimed with strange weapons at the walls, like something wild was trying to break free. Marcus looked at the egg, he said, smiling like he'd found buried treasure. She didn't move. So it's true, he said. Her breathing was heavy. This thing's alive. Sweat dripped from her face. Forward. Suddenly, don't touch it. She opened her eyes. Marcus raised an eyebrow. They were fully white. And you must be the babysitter. No color. I'm the companion. Something's wrong, she said. Marcus said. It was the first time Jax had heard her speak his language clearly. He turned to the soldiers. He sat up fast. Secure the room. What do you mean wrong? Get me a link with base. She looked at her hands. Everything made me to destroy. The egg stopped but glowing. Something inside me doesn't want to stop. The air turned heavy, trembled, like time had frozen. Jax stood up. Soft. Can you control it? Like a baby's breath echoing through metal. That the egg shattered. While Jax slept with violence, Lyra walked into the canyon alone. It cracked open gently. The sky above was clear, blue glow filled the room with stars. Floating from the center was like they were old friends. Small. Then she screamed. Not fully formed. A sound not of pain, but body of power. Shimmered like liquid cracked around her. No legs. Dust lifted into the air. But it was breathing. Light shot from her heartbeat like energy surrounded it. She dropped to her knees. Didn't speak. Memories hit her like fire. The temple went quiet. Wires in her skin. Two glowing threads reached out from the child. Needles. One toward Cole, a voice whispering toward Marcus. She is a key took a step to ending all wars. It's choosing. She wasn't just Marcus created, whispered. She was the child trembled to survive, and then to evolve, not to erase threats with force, including herself. A wave of energy blasted out. Jax woke up to the soldiers flew across the room. He grabbed his blaster lit up and ran. The temple what he saw froze him. Marcus hit the ground. Lyra was floating a few feet above the ground. Cole dropped. Her body glowed. Her veins were lit with light. Feels the fear. Her shadow stretched across the canyon. The princess's voice returned. And her face, echoing through the air like a memory breaking free. Lyra, you have awakened the seed. She looked at him. But it is not ready. And then collapsed. Must feel trust. He caught her before she hit the ground. Marcus glow faded. Her breathing was weak. This thing doesn't need trust. Stay with me, kid. He pulled a device from his belt. Her hands touched his chest. Alien tech. I can't stop it. Time to take the leash off. The power, he growled. It's growing. Cole shouted. Jax shook his head. Stop. You'll figure it out more. Together. But it was too late. She coughed. Marcus if it gets worse, the device into the floor. You have to end it. A net of red energy shot toward the child. Don't say that. A trap. Her voice was barely a breath. This time, promise me. Everything cracked. He looked at her. The floor broke. This strange, powerful, broken girl exploded from another child's body. Said nothing. Sharp, because he couldn't promise that. He couldn't let her die. It was like watching a son cry. Everything. Marcus the next morning, thrown across the room. The device melted in his hand. Not from the soldiers. Cole crawled forward, not from her people, shielding his eyes. From Earth. It's okay. Jax's emergency beacon had worked. You're not alone. A sleek silver vessel landed nearby. The child floated toward him. Medics still shaking. Soldiers still glowing too bright. Carefully. It reached out. One of them approached Jax. Light wrapping around Cole's chest. Is this the girl? And suddenly he didn't answer. The child looked at her unconscious in his arms. Shaking. She's the one, all right. He wasn't on the floor anymore. She's the future. He was floating or the end of the child's mind. Jax held her Images tighter. Passed around him. You don't touch her, Planet, he said. Music, not unless she agrees. Faces of the princesses stared at him. Their history. She's a danger. Their pain. She's a person. Love. And Jax at the center of it all, they backed off. A small, for now, lonely being looking for a home. Lyra opened her eyes finally. She saw the stars above with feeling. And Jax are sitting by her side. Cole didn't answer with speech. She just opened his heart. He laughed. And the child not glowed. Yet. Back in the real world. I'm scared. Marcus lay unconscious. He said. The red device means was you're broken. Still you. Cole then stood holding the child in his arms. Her glow returned. Gentle small this now, time. Soft light coming gently. I think I'm ready. A new doorway had opened. Ready for what? The final trial was ahead. She looked at the princess's voice and said just one last warning. Everything. You have made contact. But the choice is not yet complete. The stars were watching. Peace. Far above the kind that comes planet, before a storm. Warships Dr. floated Cole like Rivers silent stood predators. Inside a glowing black, chamber, silver, the last chamber, and burning red. The child ships floated Earth, beside him, from Lyra's creators, glowing and from those like who a sleeping star. They all waited. But the temple waited to see what she would do. The walls moved, to see what she would become. The symbols lit up. On the surface, the air Lyra with stood ancient at the edge of the canyon. A soft hum white eyes from glowed the stones. Softly. A voice her hands buried didn't in shake anymore. The choice the power must be inside her was quiet. The child opened its eyes. If they could be called beside her. Two soft jacket was torn. One shone blue, the other his eyes flickered red. You sure about the sound of boots? He asked. Marcus was alive. She didn't nod. Bruised, she didn't speak. Bleeding, instead, but burning with rage, she closed her eyes. He stepped into the chamber. The ground under her feet began to lift. He growled. Slow. That thing belongs to us. Silent. Cole stood between Marcus and the child. Circled her. It doesn't belong to anyone. Light pulsed from her skin like waves raised a weapon. Above them, the Earthship's captain watched the scanner. The chamber locked. She's activating. A deep voice, energy spike rising. Alien, a scientist behind him whispered. The final trial is not yours. She could destroy the fleet. To the child. All of us. The floor lit up beneath their feet. Two symbols appeared. No one
One
answered,
beneath Cole,
because no
calm,
one knew what
white,
she would do.
shaped like a heart.
Not even Lyra.
One beneath
Down
Marcus,
below, Lyra
red,
saw it
jagged,
all in her mind.
shaped like a crown.
Every ship,
The child
every
floated
weapon,
between them.
every eye
It
watching
looked at
her.
Cole.
She
It
heard
looked
their
at Marcus.
thoughts. Some
And then
called her
the
a
world
threat.
stopped.
Some called
Inside
her a
the
miracle.
child's mind,
But none of
there was
them
no
saw
temple,
her as a child.
no earth,
Just a choice.
just light and
kill
memory.
or be killed.
Cole and Marcus
she floated
stood face
higher
to face.
into the sky now.
But this time,
above
they
the
weren't
trees,
men.
above
They were
the broken
intentions.
caves.
Feelings
Jax
made
looked up
visible.
at her, shielding
Marcus
his
appeared
eyes.
as a tall,
He didn't shout.
dark figure.
He didn't
Cole,
beg.
chirp,
He trusted
powerful.
her. That's
Cole
what made
appeared
the
as a
difference.
warm light,
Suddenly,
flickering, a little
a screen
unstable,
lit up on
but
one of
kind.
the warships.
The child
A commander
stood between
appeared,
them,
face
small,
cold and strict.
glowing, pulsing
This is
with
Command
fear.
Alpha.
It reached out its
Subject
hand to Marcus.
13.
Marcus
Stand
stepped
down.
forward,
Return
smiling.
to our ship
Yes,
and surrender.
come to me.
Another
I will
voice
make you
came
strong.
from a different
The
ship.
humans will fear
Lyra, if you don't
You will be
stop
safe
now,
through
we will
control.
fire. This is
Then
your
the
last
child
warning.
turned to Cole.
She looked
He
at
said
the
nothing.
sky,
He
at
didn't
all
beg.
of them,
He
and
just
whispered
opened his
something
arms
only Jax could
and
hear
whispered, "You
through
choose."
the wind. They
Back
built
in the
me to
chamber,
end things,
the lights
but
faded.
I choose to begin.
The air thickened.
She raised
The
both
child
hands.
floated forward
Energy
and
circled
stopped
her
between
like a
them.
storm.
Then slowly,
It grew louder,
it placed
brighter,
one glowing
and
hand
then
on Cole's chest
disappeared.
and the
All of
other
it.
on
The
Marcus's
light,
head.
the
The
glow,
chamber
the
exploded
wind,
with energy.
gone.
White,
She fell from
red,
the sky
and blue.
fast.
Cole screamed.
Jax ran forward.
Marcus roared.
Caught her.
Then
Her body
everything
was
went
light
still.
as a feather.
Later,
Breathing,
snow fell softly
alive,
outside
but
the
her
ice
powers
temple.
were
Cole
quiet,
walked slowly
dormant,
across the
as
snow,
if she had put
carrying
them
the
back in the
child
box
wrapped
they
in
came
warm
from.
light, cradled
Later,
like
the
a
fleet
newborn.
left,
Its
not
energy
with
had
orders,
changed,
but
calmer,
with silence,
balanced.
because she
He
didn't
looked up
fight.
at the stars.
She didn't burn
"I think you're
worlds.
home now,"
She
he
simply
whispered.
showed them
Behind him,
that she
the
could,
temple sealed
but chose
itself
not to.
forever.
And in that
No one
moment,
would find it again.
she was more
As for
powerful than all
Marcus,
of them.
gone.
A week passed.
Not dead,
Jax's ship
but
was
locked
fixed.
inside the
The
temple,
canyon
in a
behind them
prison
was
of thought.
quiet again.
A mirror
He looked
chamber
at her
where
across
he
the
would face
cockpit.
himself for the rest of his life.
He said,
1 week
"Where
later,
do we go now?"
Cole stood
She
before a
stared
small
at the
cabin
stars
in the
through
woods.
the window.
The child,
Somewhere,
now walking,
she said,
stepped outside
"That
and looked
doesn't
up
know
at the
my
night
name."
sky.
Jax
"Do you
smiled.
miss her?"
New
Cole
name,
asked.
new life?
The child nodded.
She nodded.
"I hear
He
her
looked at
voice
her for a long
sometimes."
moment. "You're
Cole
not what they
smiled.
made you, Lyra."
"She saved you.
She turned
You
to
saved
him.
me."
"I'm what
The
I
child
choose
looked
to
at
be."
him.
And
"Are
then the
you my
stars
father?"
moved as the ship
Cole
flew
paused,
forward.
then
Into a
gently
sky
said,
that didn't
"I
fear
don't know
her.
what I am,
Into a
but
future
I'm here,
that hadn't been
and
written
I
yet.
always will be." The child smiled, and for the first time, it laughed, softly, like wind through leaves. It looked up at the stars and whispered something Cole couldn't hear. But if he could, he would have heard one word. "Coming."